March has arrived. Survive and advance also applies to the ACC tournament. What a day. Maliq Brown, Cooper Flagg leave the game with injuries. Duke basketball still on top.
You are Locked On Blue Devils, your daily podcast on the Duke Blue Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody. Welcome into another episode of the Locked On Blue Devils podcast. My name is JJ Jackson. So thankful to have you here with us today on Thursday, March 13th, 2025. Locked On Blue Devils is your one-stop shop where we discuss everything going on inside the life of Duke athletics. We talk a whole lot about Duke men's basketball this time of year. And on today's show, I've got Ben McCormick from Duke Wisdom with me to talk about Duke's win today over Georgia Tech in the quarterfinals of the ACC Tournament. A couple of players exit the game with injuries, so there's a whole lot for us to dive into throughout the course of today's show. If you have not done so already, please be sure to follow and subscribe to Locked On Blue Devils for free, wherever it is that you get your podcasts. We're with you each and every day, proudly a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You can also watch our show each and every day on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Like this video, share it with your friends. We're all over the place on social media, continuing to grow this Locked On Blue Devils world, and really do appreciate all of your support that you give us. So without further ado, the aforementioned Ben McCormick is here with us, talking about a gutsy win for the Duke basketball team, a whirlwind of emotions, starting with injuries that took place there in the first half. Ben, I hope you're doing well, man, because, man, what a game we had to watch here today from Duke.
Yeah, man. Well, thanks for having me, JJ. But I think that was probably the least amount of fun I've had watching Duke win a basketball game in my entire life. I mean, that was a roller coaster, up and down. I think I had a thread on Twitter where I was basically like, the worst part about this is if they're helping UNC out if they lose this game. And then I was like, well, actually, now the worst part's Maliq Brown got hurt. And I was like, well, actually, now it's Cooper Flagg got hurt. It's getting worse by the minute, actually. But they ended up really, really hunkering down there in the second half, even without those guys, and pulling out a gritty win. And that's something to be proud of, nonetheless.
Without a doubt. I mean, you win by 8 in the ACC tournament, you move on, and now you're going to play tomorrow against the winner of North Carolina and Wake Forest. And certainly we'll see what that looks like for Duke going into the next game. But the most significant news out of this game is, in fact, the injury that Cooper Flagg sustained there with about 3 minutes left in the first half. Going up for a rebound, comes down, and there's a foot that he lands on, and that's just never a good sign. Cooper Flagg is Superman in so many ways. The fact he was that high in the air, grabbing a rebound like that, just shows off the type of player he is, but comes down hurt, and immediately you could see him in pain, and that's just an image that we have not seen before this season, is Cooper Flagg down on the ground like that.
You could just see the season kind of flashing before your eyes in that moment, because there's a lot of things that could happen to this Duke team that they can weather and still be a championship team. Cooper Flagg missing extended time is not one of those things. And I think immediately, like you said, when he goes down, this is a tough kid. Yeah. He reminds me, he has a lot of the same mannerisms of a Giannis when he got hurt before the finals, or Kobe Bryant when he would get hurt, that he's just, he's slamming his hand down. He wants to stand right back up and play in this game. And you could see that in him, the frustration that he couldn't do that. And so I have no doubt that when he comes back, he'll bounce back and he'll be great. But it was definitely difficult in that moment to see him go down like that, because everything going through my mind is just negative. I'm like, man, I mean, how are they going to get past this if he misses more than a couple of weeks?
And, of course, as the game goes on, Duke wins this game. We're able to get updates from head coach Jon Scheyer after the fact, but just kind of playing it out a little bit more. Cooper Flagg is the ACC Player of the Year. He deserves to be the National Player of the Year from the discussions that we've had throughout the course of the season. Then he's slowly walking over to the bench. You see his teammates all around him. They continue to show the replay, and the next thing you know, he's having to have teammates kind of help him off the floor and get back into the locker room area. We're just waiting for any kind of update at all there, Ben. At halftime, he's seen in a wheelchair with his shoe off, going back for x-rays there inside the Spectrum Center. I mean, this thing was – they dragged it out, as they should, in real time. The fact that it was at such a big event like the ACC tournament, we were able to see all these things, right? Because if this had been a game at home inside Cameron Indoor and not in a big event like this, we wouldn't know anything. We wouldn't have the ability to go get an x-ray in the middle of a game like this, but all 30 NBA arenas have that capability. And so yeah, we were able to just kind of be up to date more frequently with an injury like this, which was different than what we're used to seeing in college basketball.
The wheelchair wasn't a good look live, man.
Yeah,
When they put him in that wheelchair, I'm thinking it's over.
No.
But I had to remind myself.
Too big of a player to be in a wheelchair, and too great of a player. Yeah, absolutely.
You got to remind yourself, though, that it's like anytime you have an injury like that, lower body injury, they don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
They're going to put him in that wheelchair because they don't want to put any pressure on it to risk, furthering the injury. So you have to take a step back. But in the moment, just when you see the imagery of him in that wheelchair, that's just that. I mean, that's the perfect symbol.
Yeah.
He's dying right there. So that is.
Yep. Not wanting to put any weight on it. And then, it continues to play out. And a couple of minutes into the second half, we see Cooper Flagg back out on the bench area, sitting at the very end of the bench with Neil Bekovich and Stanley Borden. And he was able to put a little bit of weight on his foot, still hobbling around. And after the fact, Jon Scheyer was able to share that, yes, the x-rays were negative. Their concern now is the swelling that comes with it. Didn't necessarily say one way or the other as to whether or not we would see Cooper Flagg play again tomorrow in the ACC Tournament semifinals. And if Duke wins, they would play in the tournament final on Saturday, but said that he's going to have to be really, really convinced by pretty much everybody around him to let Cooper Flagg go. And ultimately, I think every Duke fan in the world, every basketball fan is going to agree that's the right decision. We want to win a national championship when it's all said and done. No reason to risk this with further injury.
The ACC tournament is a goal for this Duke team, but a national championship is the goal.
Yeah.
And you don't want to compromise the goal just for what is kind of a smaller, unit. And so I think that it would be a pretty poor decision to put him on the floor at any point for the rest of the week. I think that he probably could go by the first round of the tournament. I think you could make a decision even with that game, whether you need him or not. Give him the proper amount of time to heal and bring him back when you need him, which I don't think is this week.
Yeah, no, I think Duke's going to be fine without him, even if they were to lose to North Carolina or Wake Forest, or say they go further, and we'll see action later tonight to see how the bottom of the bracket shapes up. But a lot of people believe it'd be 2-seed Clemson and Louisville, kind of their opposite Duke side of the bracket in the tournament final. Even if Duke were to drop one of those games, to your point, Duke's going to be fine in the long run if they can get Cooper Flagg back in the fold and ready to get after it. I think another big positive thing when you just talk about what we heard from Jon Scheyer after the fact, right, is that there's not like this immediate, let's go get an MRI, let's go do all of these things beyond it. At least right now, that's not the case. We'll see what happens, as he said, when the swelling starts to subside and that sort of thing. But that was positive for me too, is that I like that he's not ruled out for tomorrow's game. Do we want him to play? No, but to be a little bit more positive, maybe he could.
Yeah. If he's not ruled out immediately, that means that NCAA tournament wise, he's good. He should be fine. And so that's the big thing that matters. And I think the ultimate thing here is that they don't need Cooper Flagg to win the ACC tournament. They need him to win the national championship. But this is a Carolina team they beat multiple times, a Wake Forest team they beat multiple times. And I think even with Louisville and Clemson, if it were to come to that, this Duke team's good enough to beat them without Cooper Flagg. Kon Knueppel showed a lot of greatness today, and he proved that he can be a guy that could be an ACC tournament MVP type player.
Career high 28 points for Kon Knueppel to lead the way. Isaiah Slim Evans did so much off the bench for this Duke team. We got to dive into that. Also, there's another injury that's going to play a significant impact on the Duke basketball team that Maliq Brown suffered in the first half. We'll start to break that one down for you after we take our first break here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. Locked On Blue Devils here today, brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's really easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you just stop managing your money and start building wealth. Surprising insights are the best part. When I started using Monarch, I realized just how much I was spending on things like food delivery, and now I'm able to budget smarter and save so much more. It's all in one convenience. Instead of having to juggle multiple apps to see what I'm spending where, Monarch's able to keep track of it all in one place. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com for half off your first year. My apologies. It's code LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE. So use code LOCKEDONCollege to help you with your Monarch Money opportunities there. Our show today is also brought to you by our friends at Factor. Looking to optimize your nutrition this year, Factor makes eating well easy with chef-prepared, dietitian-approved meals that are fresh, never frozen, and ready to heat and eat in just 2 minutes. With 40 options across 8 dietary preferences every week, you can customize your meals to fit your lifestyle, whether it's a Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, or Keto. Plus, Factor even offers wholesome smoothies, breakfasts, and grab-and-go snacks to keep you fueled all day long. Factor takes the stress out of meal planning. The convenience is unbeatable. Eat smart with Factor. Get started at factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege, 50 off. Use code LockedOnCollege, 50 off, to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. That's LockedOnCollege, 50 off, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, 50 OFF. LockedOnCollege, 50 off to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. Factor Meals is a proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. Let's keep this thing rolling. Ben McCormick's here from Duke Wisdom. We're talking Duke basketball. They win 78-70 over Georgia Tech in the first round, in their first game, but it's the quarterfinals of the ACC tournament there in Charlotte at Spectrum Center. Already talked about Cooper Flagg, who left this game with an injury. Unfortunately, that was the only guy who had to walk off the court because he was injured. Maliq Brown sustained a dislocated shoulder. We heard from Jon Scheyer after the game. He was stretchered out of the Spectrum Center, sent to a local hospital in a considerable amount of pain. That's why they used the stretcher, Jon Scheyer said, to help with the pain level for Maliq as he was being transported there, and he's going to continue to be evaluated. He has been ruled out for the rest of the ACC tournament, but no further rule-outs were said by head coach Jon Scheyer. But obviously, this is another significant injury because it's a re-dislocation. We were dealing with this a couple of weeks ago with Maliq.
Yeah, when I saw that happen, at first I was just thinking, I don't know if we're going to see Maliq again this season. Yeah. Honestly, when you have a re-injury like that, because at that point you start thinking surgery. That's the thought that's coming across your mind. Now, obviously, we don't know that. We have no confirmation of anything, but that is certainly kind of what you start thinking. And if that is the case, we may have very well seen the last of Maliq this season. I think the silver lining to that is that Duke has had practice without Maliq Brown now on a couple of occasions before this. They've been able to vet Pat Gongba. They've been able to vet, not that Maliq needs much vetting, he starts, but they've been able to operate without Maliq Brown before on a couple of occasions. And I think that they'll be able to do so again. That doesn't mean that Maliq Brown won't be missed, though, if he is not able to make a return for the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, obviously, as you said, this is something that we've seen before with Maliq Brown, and I hate that it comes after a return game against North Carolina in which he did play such a pivotal role, had the dunk, but more importantly, he had those 2 3-point shots that we're talking about. He was out in the passing lanes, deflecting things early on in this game against Georgia Tech before he sustained the injury. And you could also see in Saturday's game against North Carolina and then today against Georgia Tech, he was still wearing shoulder pad. Makes me think of football, but the brace that you could see coming out of his jersey there. So clearly being extra cautious with this injury, but good enough to be out there playing. And it seemed like Ben just another kind of reaching out, making a play once again on the ball. And that's what happened to have the injury take place.
Yeah, it doesn't give you a warm feeling to see just how minimal of contact has been required for him to injure his shoulder and re-injure it. That kind of, to me, seems like this is, even if he does come back for the NCAA tournament, any given play, it could be re-injured a third time. And that's something that you really, really don't want. That can cause some long-term issues. And if Maliq Brown is going to continue playing basketball at professional level and heck at Duke next season, that's not something you want to risk for him and his health. So it might be, they have some tough decisions, some tough conversations out of them.
Well, we talked scoring in this game, and it was obviously a load that Kon Knueppel carried so much of. It was something that we saw Isaiah Evans pour in shots from the outside, but Duke had to climb out of a hole. They got off to such a slow start. They had a 14-point deficit in the first half. That was tied for their largest deficit this entire season. Duke was down by 5 at halftime. That's the largest halftime deficit they had to get into that position. I simply think it was just the outside shooting. I mean, Duke starts the game 0 of 10 from three-point range, didn't even finish it with a good percentage, but did enough throughout the rest of the game to pick up a win. Is that what you saw, or what are the concerning parts about that start for Duke, even before these injuries took place?
I don't think there was any point in time in which I thought Duke was going to lose this game. I mean, even when Cooper Flagg goes down, they're down double digits. Because like you said, when you miss wide open three-pointers like that, the adjustment for Georgia Tech defensively is easy. It's really easy. It's just pack the inside, close up those driving lanes, dare them to make the threes. And if they're not going to do it, just keep building the lead. And that's kind of what's going to happen. And I figured as soon as they saw one go down, the floodgates were maybe not going to completely open, but you were going to start seeing a few go down. And once a few started to go down, this Duke team is so good, and I've had confidence in them this season, that I knew that this Georgia Tech team wasn't good enough to weather a big run that we've seen Duke have. They've sort of patented throughout the years. Georgia Tech just wasn't good enough to weather that, and that ended up being the case.
Duke picks up a win, 78-70, because of the play of those outside shooting, but then also talking about the injuries to the front court players in Maliq Brown and Cooper Flagg. Let's talk about Maliq and Pat Gamba in particular. Their ability to, one, protect the rim as Georgia Tech was rolling. They continued to get a couple of shots there close, and the interior defense really forced them to take shots further away from the basket. This becomes a percentage game at that point, and you're feeling good about things. I was so impressed by the contributions that both of those guys had. And Pat Gamba in particular, we're going to need more of them down the stretch, more of them if Duke wants to win this ACC tournament throughout the rest of the weekend. And day by day, this guy continues to get better.
So Dongo is a really good player for Georgia Tech. He's an all-ACC player. That sort of first possession of the game, he blows by Maliq, and I'm sort of, come on, man. But after that, Maliq adjusted really well to guarding by Dongo.
We're gonna get confused every time they kept saying Gongba and Gongo.
So, they're so close, right? They're so close. But anytime he's guarding by, he's just sort of like, he's sliding his feet. He's getting in front of him. And I was very proud of that effort from him. And then Patrick comes in. He sort of does the same thing. And I think Pat does a really good job defensively with other big men. He has really good verticality. I think at that one block that he stayed straight up on and was able to block Dongo on. And that was really impressive to me. I think sometimes where you get a little iffy on Pat being in the game defensively is when they're switching everything and he gets put on guards.
Right.
He has a difficult time with the foot speed. But overall, as an interior defender, he did very well today. He was able to pick up some slack offensively, and Maliq had a just terrific game. One of his better that he's had lately with both defensively and offensively.
What a win for Duke, and they were led by Kon Knueppel, a career-high 28 points, an all-ACC first-team snub. We'll say it, he was a superstar in this one for the Blue Devils. Let's talk a little bit more about his performance and what Duke got from Isaiah Evans after we take our final break here on the show. Locked On Blue Devils here today, brought to you by our friends at Intuit TurboTax. Taxes are waiting and wondering and worrying if you were going to get any money back, and then waiting, wondering, and worrying some more. Now Taxes is matching with a TurboTax expert who could do your taxes as soon as today. An expert who gives your taxes their undivided attention as they work on your return while you get real-time updates on their progress so you can focus on your day. An expert who will find you every deduction possible and file every form, every investment, everything with 100% accuracy. Also, you can get the most money back guaranteed with complete peace of mind. No waiting, no wondering, no worries. Now this is Taxes. Get an expert now at TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live full service. Real-time updates only in the iOS mobile app. See guaranteed details at TurboTax.com/guarantees. Proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. Ben McCormick from Duke Wisdom back with us here. Kon Knueppel, career-high 28 points. He had 22 of them in the second half. He had several of them down the stretch there where Georgia Tech was playing the foul game, and Duke did a remarkable job of just getting it to a 90+% free throw shooter. But when Duke needed things in the second half to get this rally going, it was Knueppel also tying his career high with 8 assists, able to throw those lobs up top to Maliq, kick out to Evans, and even Sion James had a couple of three-point looks for Duke in this one, and really, really impressed with the all-around game from Kon Knueppel.
Yeah, so I'm a Bucks fan. The people know that, and
Yeah,
I always draw connections between these two teams. And I mentioned Giannis earlier with
sure.
that injury before the finals, and this made me think so much of those two games, 2021 Eastern Conference Finals. Bucks don't have Giannis. Things look bad. Chris Middleton shows up with a 40-point game. To me, Kon Knueppel is that type of player that even when you don't have your guy,
Yeah.
he can be that guy. Like he today proved that he very well may have been the ACC Player of the Year had Cooper Flagg not been at Duke. He's that skilled. He's that talented. He can put the team on his back. There's a different dimension when Cooper Flagg's on the floor, but Kon Knueppel is a very, very talented offensive player that you can feel pretty safe about when he's your best offensive player.
And he feels so like calm and under control and all of this. You know, you're watching Cooper Flagg throughout the course of a game, and he's obviously so hyped, so animated, so into it with just the movements that he's making. And it just feels like Kon's always the same guy. Same face, same body language, everything. And yet he is still an absolute bucket and a top-level ball player.
Man, he's a freshman. I mean, I think he carries himself like he's a senior. He really does. And even maybe more so than Cooper Flagg does. His demeanor is just so professional-like. And I think that's the way he carried himself today. He was a true professional. That's the best way to put it. To go through that adversity and still come out playing that well, playing some of his best basketball of the season, that's truly remarkable for him. And I know NBA scouts took note of that today.
So you look at this game for Duke. They didn't have Maliq Brown and Cooper Flagg after they went out with injuries. Then you also look at the guards for the Blue Devils. Offensively, didn't really get much from the combination of Sion James, Tyrese Proctor, and Caleb Foster. Of course, when Duke starts 0 of 10 from three-point range, Slim comes in, and Isaiah Evans gets the first one to go. He finishes with 4 3-point makes in this basketball game for the Blue Devils. And, he's back playing in his hometown of Charlotte, and he's starting to carry the load for Duke, which is amazing to see.
Yeah, if you ever have a lull in confidence, if you do, there's your saving grace.
Yeah.
Put him in there. I mean, make it or not, he's going to take that shot with confidence. He thinks it's going in. And sometimes when you're 0 of 10, 0 of 11 from 3 to start a game, guys start thinking, when you get the ball, I mean, I know what that feels like. You get that ball and you're thinking, man, I really hope this one goes down. Isaiah Evans shoots the ball. It doesn't matter when in the game. He shoots it, he puts it up, he's thinking, that's going in.
Yeah.
No matter whether he missed it by 3 feet or he sunk it, he thinks it's going in. And that's the kind of confidence you need sometimes.
And that's what we love to see. I just keep thinking back to like Saturday against North Carolina. He really didn't play that much at all. And I would be always curious in games like that, when you've got a player who's coming off the bench, how does that impact them the next time that they come out? He's still the same. And I think that's one of the better attributes for him is that, there have been games where his number wasn't called, but every single time it has been, he's ready to go, which is just unbelievable. And obviously scouts are starting to notice it when you start talking about what's next for Isaiah Evans. And we still want to go out and win the title this year, but having those futuristic conversations as well. Let's do whatever it takes to keep that guy in Durham next season, because he will be an absolute asset for Duke next year.
I've been pretty adamant that Isaiah Evans should come back for another year.
Yeah.
When it comes to shot selection, there's certain things that he's just not quite ready for. I think the physicality of the NBA would be difficult for Isaiah at the moment. Put on a little bit more bulk, rein that shot selection in a little bit. I think the confidence is a really good trait for him, but just rein it back a little bit. And he could be really, really, really good next season, and his stock would skyrocket.
Okay, so now Duke's into the semifinals. They're going to play either North Carolina or Wake Forest tomorrow night. So we know for sure an ACC tournament semifinal will be a battle of 2 state of North Carolina schools in the state of North Carolina there in Charlotte at Spectrum Center. And it's against 2 teams that Duke has beaten twice already this season. How are you feeling going into this, knowing that it's likely without Flagg and Maliq Brown?
Well, no matter what, it's hard to beat a team 3 times.
Yeah.
Even if they were fully healthy, it's hard to beat a team 3 times. I do think on paper, Duke should win this game, with or without Cooper Flagg. They should win. Whoever they're playing, they should beat them. But I do know that both of these teams, another added element is they have their back against the wall. They're both on the bubble. If they beat Duke tomorrow, either one of them, that might be the final nail in the coffin. They're in. They're in if they win. They may not even need the championship win. And so that's huge. And especially when those teams see a Cooper Flaggless team, they're going to think, we really got a shot here. We can make this happen. So you might even see added incentive, added effort from Wake Forest or Carolina. And so that's going to be really tough. And I think if Duke is able to come out of tomorrow with a victory, that's going to say a lot about these guys.
I'm fired up to see it happen, no matter who it is. Obviously, it's so hard to beat a team 3 times. I loved Isaiah Evans after the game talking about, we're not one guy or 2 guys. We're Duke. And in so many ways beyond the opponent and beyond, obviously wanting to win the national championship first and foremost. It'd be so amazing to go on just another ACC tournament run without these guys and just showing the world once again, look at what Duke is capable of. Look at what they can do. For sure. So, Ben, always love talking shop with you, talking ball. You do a great job over there with Duke Wisdom. Tell people how they can support you and all about your work, if you will.
Yeah, man. Well, thanks for having me, JJ. And you can go to dukewisdom.org, check out the podcast or articles on there. Check out Duke Wisdom on Instagram, Twitter, Blue Sky, all the different handles. And the podcast, you can find it on Spotify, Apple, YouTube. Just look up Duke Wisdom Podcast.
Good to see you, man. We'll do this again soon, okay?
Man, thank you.
All right, that's Ben McCormick joining us here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. We'll see Duke back in action tomorrow in the ACC Tournament semifinals against either North Carolina or Wake Forest. Really excited to see that one play out. That'll do it for today's show. As always, go Duke. I'll talk to you tomorrow. My name is JJ Jackson. Thank you and good day.